I didn't think there'd be vampires on campus.
We must have been at about 40,000 feet when it happened.
What was that?
You are the Slayer. One girl in all the world.
Did anybody see that?
Yeah.
Guess what? I feel better.
Guys, where are we?
Hi, Pat.
Hey, Sammy, how's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
I am doing great. Big show today. Big show.
I am so excited. This is our first ever Buffy-only episode.
Yes.
And our first ever guest star episode.
Yeah.
So we did the math and we realized there are 23 more Buffy episodes than Lost.
Yeah, yikes.
So we're going to be... Sorry about it. So we're going to be peppering a few Buffy-only episodes here and there. And because this is a season 1 finale, we just figured we'd start here.
Yeah.
So to celebrate the season 1 finale and our first ever Buffy-only episode, we have a special guest, my friend Kathleen Shannon, the co-founder and creative director at Braid Creative, which is a branding agency for entrepreneurs and organizations. She's the author of Being Boss, Take Control of Your Work and Live Life on Your Terms, a book I have read multiple times and reread at various times throughout the year and whatever's happening in my career. It's dog-eared and highlighted all over. And like me, Kathleen has been a Buffy fan since the beginning. Say hi, Kathleen.
Hi, Sammy. Hi, Pat. Thank you
Hi.
for having me. I'm so excited to just talk about Buffy.
I know. So,
Yeah.
Kathleen, how the heck do we know each other?
We know each other. Did we meet on a Being Boss vacation
We did.
in New Orleans or Miami?
We met in New Orleans, but I also went to Miami. So I think I was actually at the first New Orleans one.
Okay, so for context for your dad who doesn't listen to the show or
Yes.
anyone else. So I used to be the co-host of a podcast called Being Boss, and it was all about talking about, managing your own creative entrepreneur career. And so all of the tips and tricks and habits and routines that we've learned along the way in working for ourselves. And I was the co-host of that show with my partner, Emily Thompson. And every year we decided hey, let's go on a vacation and invite some of our listeners. So it'd be like if the two of you were like, hey, let's go to New Orleans together and see if any of our listeners want to come join us. Well, 75 people came to join us. So before we knew it, we had a conference. But I specifically remember the second year we had it in Miami and we rented a yacht. It's actually a flat bottom dinner boat, but whatever. We were calling it a yacht.
Seemed like a yacht to me.
We rented a yacht for all the bosses on the trip. And it was a big party. And I think I specifically remember, Sammy, we were dancing in this dancing room on this yacht. And I feel like that's where we really started talking about Buffy. And I feel like it was almost a spiritual psychic connection. Are you a Buffy fan? Or maybe I overheard you and Jem talking about
I think so, yeah.
Buffy. And I was like, wait, what are you guys talking about?
I mean, I'm pretty much always trying to talk about Buffy with anyone. So
Hence why I'm on this podcast.
Pat's just my latest victim.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. So I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Before we really dive in. Is that okay? Can I ask a
Yes.
question?
Yeah,
about-
I just want to say one more thing, though, about
Okay.
that yacht trip. So right after that, I think you and I just decided that we wanted to do the Titanic. I don't know if we're supposed to say this because I think technically we could have gotten in trouble. Maybe we did. I think we got yelled at.
Oh, off
But
the bow of the boat?
Yeah. So
Stern bow?
Kathleen was Jack and I was Rose. At the bow of the boat. And it was magical.
That is hilarious. I'm constantly getting in trouble for doing things like that.
Yeah.
Titanicing.
But it's funny because I hate getting in trouble. I'm such a rule follower. I hate getting in trouble, but I love pretending like I'm on the Titanic.
It's a real conundrum.
Truly. Okay, so here's my Buffy questions.
Okay.
And I apologize if you covered this in the first episode. Feel free to breeze by. But
Yeah.
Sammy, how old were you whenever Buffy came out? So it was in 1997.
Yeah, so I basically turned 10 in between the 11th and 12th episodes.
Okay. And were you watching it in real time?
Yeah, I don't know that I caught like the first and maybe even the first couple of episodes, but I definitely remember watching the season finale in real time. And as I was telling Pat, we've definitely had conversations in the past about how one of my grandmothers on my grandmother on my mom's side was a big horror film addict. And so she would watch like horror films when she was babysitting me, and I was like very, very little. So I have these memories of like really bad Stephen King films that I should not have been watching at like 4, 5, whatever.
Same.
Yeah.
So I think I watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre whenever I was 6 years old.
Oh,
Inappropriately young. Now that I have a
Jeez.
kid, I'm like, that shouldn't have been going down.
Yeah.
Okay, so then my next question, and then we can dig in. I'm not trying to hijack your podcast.
No, please
No.
do.
But my next question is, how many times have you watched season 1 of Buffy?
Oh, wow. I don't know.
Baker's dozen.
Honestly, probably not that many times, because I will be honest, while I disagree, and I know we'll get into this a little bit later, that you can, I don't think you can skip season 1, like, of watching Buffy in its entirety. Once you've seen it, I think it's okay to sort of skip around. So I usually, if I start rewatching Buffy, I tend to start like mid season 2 or season 3, because season 3 is my favorite. And we'll talk about that when we get to season 3. But I probably have seen season 1 in its entirety, maybe like 3 or 4 times. If that, like this being the 3rd or 4th.
So I started watching Buffy. I was trying to remember. I would have been 15. So the same age as the kids whenever Buffy came out in real time. And I remember we watched it as a family a little bit, but we didn't catch every episode. And I want to say that we maybe fell off of it because of season 1. But a few things for context. One, my family was an avid all my children watching family. So we would record it on the VCR and all watch it together after my parents got home from work and we were home from school. We would all watch that day's episode of this soap opera, All My Children, together.
That's adorable.
And fun fact, Sarah Michelle Gellar was Susan Lucci, who played Erica Kane's daughter.
Yes. Yes.
So it's funny, whenever we started watching Buffy, we were like, oh my gosh, that's Erica Kane's daughter, who was like kind of this, she was a little, I mean, everyone on a soap opera is a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that kind of colored it, and it's important to mention because you forget, Buffy has become such a phenomenon apart from the movie that Buffy fans think of them as separate things. But you have to remember, in real time, we had seen the movie a few years earlier.
Right.
And you didn't really know, like, wait, is this a continuation of the movie? It's not the same. And everyone is so in love with Christy Swanson. Was that her name? Who played
Kirsty
Buffy?
Swanson,
It just seemed like a big disconnect, right? And so that colored a lot of
That's
it.
a really
But
good
then
point.
I really got into Buffy in college. So I was probably a sophomore in college, which now at the time I felt so old. Now it's like, just a grown-up high schooler. So really still in the same age range. And I remember after art school, I would go home and I would buy a bucket. There was this Starbucks brand ice cream at the time, and it was bigger than a pint, but smaller than a gallon.
I know exactly the ice cream that you speak of, and it is
I do not know
the
what this
best
is.
ice cream ever.
It was so good.
It was so
I don't
And
good.
I would get this
coffee,
like
so.
double chocolate chunk coffee ice cream, this larger than a pint, smaller than a gallon
About this
bucket
big.
of it. And I started to eat it every time I was watching Buffy. And then, whenever you connect things and then
Yeah.
you
Oh,
become
yeah.
like Pavlov's dog. And so then I
Yeah.
had to have this ice cream every time I watched Buffy. I got my hands on the DVD box sets. So it was whenever that was coming out by season.
Yep.
My boyfriend at the time coming home, and I was sitting in our living room eating this bucket of ice cream. And he was like, what are you watching? Are you watching Buffy? And I felt like he was kind of judging me for it. And he was real cool and was going to open a record store and kind of rejected pop culture, like just too cool for it.
Yeah.
And
Very
maybe
cool.
a week later, I came home from school one day and he was totally binging on Buffy. So then
Oh,
we got
wow.
into it together and really got into like the whole Buffy universe and then the whole just Joss Whedon world. So
Yeah.
that's kind of my Buffy history. But I will also say I've gone back and probably rewatched Buffy as a whole maybe 2 or 3 times, but never went back to season 1. So this is to say, I had forgotten a lot of it. I've also had a baby since then, which some people know, like, it just erases your mind. Like, you forget everything, at least me. I feel like I cannot remember anything.
Me neither.
Since having a kid.
I can't remember last week's episode. I have no idea what I'm saying on this podcast ever. And then I go to edit and I said that? What's happening to my brain?
Did you watch Firefly? Like, have you gone into those?
Obsessed with Firefly. I will say, like, of the whole Joss Whedon universe, I feel like Firefly is probably my favorite.
Yeah. You have to watch it, Pat. You
I
will
will.
love it
I'll watch
so
it.
much more than Buffy.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's probably a low bar for you, but but you will love Serenity because you like space stuff, you like Western, or Serenity and Firefly.
Yeah. Well, this is actually getting me pretty excited for the future seasons of Buffy because I am warming to Buffy. Like,
Yeah.
as the season progresses, this episode's a little different. We'll get to that, okay? But just hearing what Kathleen is saying about the rest of the seasons, that makes me excited to get into these seasons
I was
more.
thinking about you, Pat. I mean, I was thinking about the both of you, and I've listened to a couple of your episodes, and I thought, I wonder if it's kind of like, you know, whenever you make a new friend and then they friend you on Instagram or Facebook, and then you look at all of your photos through the lens of their eyes, and you're like, ooh, what did they think about me seeing these photos?
Yeah.
I kind of wondered if you had any of that, Sami, in rewatching season 1 and talking about it with Pat, if you were like, oh.
I have no shame when it comes to this show. This is my favorite show. Nothing can ruin that for me.
Yeah.
And Pat has tried a couple of times.
I've tried many times to break her
If
down
anything,
and be like,
it makes it stronger.
can't you see the flaw in this scene? And then she totally flips it on the head, and I say, okay, you know what? That makes sense.
Well, I think one thing that you can look forward to, and I'm not giving anything away, but I think that you will start to see the arcs. Right now in season 1, there's a lot of episodic. It's almost, you could watch it episode by episode.
Yeah,
I
totally.
forget what
It
that's
doesn't
called, but
really
almost like
tie
Law
in.
and Order, right?
Yeah.
Where each episode's almost a standalone.
Yeah.
But I think that as you go, you'll start to see arcs within the seasons, and then
Yeah.
arcs from season to season, and you'll start to realize what a story crafter and mastermind Joss Whedon is.
Yeah.
And that's what I really look forward to, you getting to have that experience. And plus it just finding its voice a little bit more. And you know what's funny? I haven't seen any of Lost. Pat, listening to the episodes, I almost thought, well, maybe I should
Yeah, you should.
give it a go.
It's great. You got to jump in, Kathleen. It's a fantastic
But I've also heard
show.
that they still don't know how it ends.
I haven't even seen the ending myself. I've seen all the seasons. I haven't seen the last season because I dropped off in the last season, and then everybody, you know, there was so much commotion about it, and I wasn't able to finish the last season. So I'm actually really looking forward to the last season to see what
Okay,
actually
you know
happens
what I
after
did
this
that
many
with?
years.
I did that with Battlestar Galactica. Battlestar, like, have you all watched it?
No. I've heard it's fantastic.
You would be into it, the both of you.
Yeah.
So
I
I
don't
was
know if
really
I like
would.
sci-fi.
I don't like
show.
space stuff.
Yeah.
I don't like space and sci-fi for the most part.
I do, though.
Except like Firefly is the exception for me.
Strong female lead being Starbuck. She's
That's-
a badass.
Okay, that's like
But it
really
kind of
important to
became
me.
like a circus. I can't remember if I've seen the end and it was just a circus, so it was not very memorable, and I felt like it wasn't really tied up very well. Or I think like you, Pat, I was going into college, or, you know, some sort of big life phase
Yeah,
that
something
took
happens.
me away from
Yeah.
either cable or the ability to watch it.
That's me and The Crown.
Right. Yeah. My wife keeps trying to get me to watch that, and I haven't agreed yet. I was like, I have too many shows I have to watch. Lost and Buffy.
I know, and you're a movie guy,
I'm
so
a movie
this is
guy,
really
traditionally.
painful for you.
Yeah.
I actually just wanted to say one more thing. I completely forgot to mention this when we were talking about Being Boss, but I have been on Being Boss. So I was on episode 117 where I was talking about my business, Flora Apothecary, as a side hustle. And God, I don't even remember when we recorded that. 2017, I think it was. And now, 3 years later, I'm self-employed and I have 2 businesses.
Congrats.
So,
Amazing.
okay, so should we dive into season 1, episode 12?
Yeah. Let's get into it.
We're talking season 1, episode 12, Prophecy Girl. Original air date is June 2nd, 1997, and this one was written and directed by Joss Whedon. All right, so some of your predictions that are relevant to this or are kind of like longer term. Your prediction from episode 2 is the Master is looking for some fresh blood to get stronger. Probably at the end of the season, Buffy will have to face him. That will likely be the season finale.
Boom.
The Master is
Nailed
going...
it.
Yep. The Master is going to get some sort of reinforcements, probably pull them out of his blood well.
Yeah.
Or an alternate dimension or portals, and build up an army because he knows Buffy is not to be trifled with. Word for word, your prediction. Xander will keep getting friend-zoned by Buffy. It'll be maybe 3 seasons before they accidentally kiss or something awkward happens, which leads them to kiss. The FBI is not actually part of the FBI. Snyder will be a thorn in their side for the next few episodes, then the Master will kill him in the finale.
Missed that one.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're going to get more naked Xander. I don't know why I decided to throw that one in here, but...
That's okay.
Just thought I should remind
It's
you
worth
about
mentioning.
That. It's worth mentioning. Buffy will have a vamp face again, but it will go back to normal, so it will happen in some kind of nightmare or alternate reality situation. They will be perpetually in high school, never graduate, and go to college. Those are your long-term running predictions. You have some other ones that are more specific about each character, but I just didn't think that they were relevant
I feel
here.
like my batting average on that list is pretty good.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pat myself on the back here.
Yeah, I know. We can't really weigh in on any of those, Kathleen.
Okay, wait. So in your high schools, what archetype would you have been casted at in the world of Buffy? Who would you have been?
Great question.
I want to say Willow because I love Willow so much, but I am not smart enough to be Willow. So I don't think I would be any of the main characters, but I was definitely like a drama club nerd. Maybe I'd be what was the kid's name from the puppet show?
Sid?
I don't know why I can't.
No,
not
that's
Sid.
the puppet.
I'd probably be his.
You are totally a Sid.
No.
No, Morgan. Is it Morgan?
Probably
Okay,
Morgan.
but let's just
Although
say
he's really
Willow.
smart too.
Yeah.
I'd like to believe that.
Okay, what about
I
you,
definitely
Pat?
dressed a lot like her.
It's tough for me because I'm hard to classify, I think.
Oh, you're
But-
so unique, Pat.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I'm probably closest to Xander.
Yes,
Okay.
100%.
Okay, well, there we go. All right. He skateboards, I skateboard.
I mean, Kathleen is so clearly Buffy. She kickboxes.
I feel like that's who I would probably be the closest to.
So
now,
here we are,
as
the
I was
Scooby
watching
Gang.
it, I would have said Willow for sure because of the way I dressed like Willow. But even now, I'm almost like, I don't know, maybe I would now dropping me in there. Maybe I would kind of be Cordelia. I don't know.
Really?
No, you're not that mean.
Couldn't be Cordelia.
You are definitely
I
not
feel like
that
Cordelia
mean.
is a little misunderstood, but that could be
She does it
something
to
else.
herself,
anyway.
though. She does become a little bit more of a human. And in this episode, too,
Yes.
she does have some moments. So we'll get into that, too.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
but yeah, I'll
we
go
can
with
only
Buffy.
hope that keeps happening. But I would definitely put you as Buffy.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time thinking about stabbing vampires through the heart with a stake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
You
you
know?
do, too, Sammy.
I do too.
You know, I mean, even like right now, current events, all my neighbors are kind of freaking out about Civil War. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I could maybe do a crossbow. I don't like guns.
Yeah.
Me neither.
But I think I could have a crossbow and
Yeah.
really, do well with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the back of a motorcycle.
Oh,
That
hell
would
yeah.
be. Yeah.
That'd be really
Anyway.
badass.
Okay, into this episode.
All right, so we open at the Bronze. Xander is practicing an impassioned "Will you date me?" speech that is meant for Buffy, but he's practicing it on Willow, which is so disheartening to me and heartbreaking because Willow just has like this dreamy look on her face, just like wishing that he was saying it to her.
Right,
And it
but she's
just
also
hurts me
like
so much.
enjoying it too. So it's like
Yeah.
she knows that it's not for her, which I got to be
Yeah.
honest, when the scene opened and he was like saying it to her, I'm like, "Wait, really? Is this happening?" It got me. And I was like, "Oh, I get had
got
so
got.
easily." Yeah, I got. But yeah, she's into it. She's like, well, you can keep going. You can keep
You
practice."
can keep practicing on
Yeah.
me, she says to him. And she's kind of like encouraging him, like, you're doing fine, don't worry about it. Xander says, what I should do is I should start with talking about the dance. You know, Buffy, spring fling, just as in any dance, it's a time for students to choose a mate and then we can observe their mating rituals and tag them before they migrate. And after that awful attempt, he wonders why it's so hard. And then he just feels ready. And he's like, I got to just do it now. I got to ask her now. And Willow's like, she's not here. So Buffy's not at the Bronze. And Xander's like, why didn't she show up tonight? What's she doing? And Willow says, oh, you know, the usual.
Hanging out in graveyards.
Hanging out. Actually, I don't think she's in a graveyard here. She's in kind of like a grassy area with like a parking lot behind her.
Okay. I just always assume it's a graveyard when it's at night.
I mean, there weren't any graves, so.
Yeah.
So we
Okay, good
cut
point.
to slow-mo of Buffy falling on her butt on some grass, and then Cordelia is making out with a guy in a car, and she's like, did you hear something? She wonders if something is out there, and then we see more of the, Buffy versus vampire slow-mo with actually a car in the background. What do you think of the slow-mo, Pat? Is this a good slow-mo?
This was good slow-mo. This passed the slow-mo test. I like the slow-mo. Yeah, it was cool. It was like a legit fall too. Like good stunt work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
So then Buffy says 3 in one night. Giles would be proud. Then we move over the roof of Sunnydale High Library. So we're kind of like looking over sunroof, moonroof? No.
It was like an atrium roof.
There we go.
Atrium.
There you go.
Yeah.
That sounds way better. It's like,
We would have never came up
I
with
feel like
that.
that's a car, right? Sunroof.
Sunroof, yeah.
It's a car.
Moonroof, that's another car thing.
It's like, there's windows on top of the ceiling, whatever
Plate
that
glass
is.
window
Atrium.
in the ceiling.
I like
yeah,
the atrium.
It's atrium. This is also part of our show where we just argue semantics and
We
how
don't
we
know
say
what
things.
things are called.
What are the names of things?
Yeah.
What do you call the thing, Kathleen, that they put bodies in morgues?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That would be a corpse refrigerator.
Okay.
That's
I think you're
pretty much
right.
what it
It's
is.
called a fridge. Yeah.
corpse-
We Googled it and they said
Corpse
it's
drawer.
called a fridge.
A drawer. I would call it a drawer.
Drawer?
Yeah.
Yep.
A refrigerated corpse drawer.
Well, I said cadaver drawer. And Sammy, what did you call it?
Oh, we're just good. We don't have to talk about
No,
that.
no. Go ahead. No, you had a label for it. What'd you call it?
I called it a body slidey hole.
Okay. Body slidey hole.
I'm
not
real
right.
into that body slidey hole.
I couldn't think of the word for drawer.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
like it. I think the body slidey hole is great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Cadaver drawer sounds legit.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'm glad we covered that.
We'll stick with that one. So it's still the same night, and then we kind of like go into the library where Giles has his nose in his books, T at his side. He's reading the codex that Angel just brought him last episode, and he translates aloud, "The master shall rise and the slayer." Then he just kind of like looks up and is like, my God. Then we get some rattling, and it's an earthquake.
Yeah, this is like Jurassic Park. Like when the T-Rex comes around and you see
like the cup.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the cup like
Reverberates.
Yeah, exactly. It's
And
like
we
that.
do get a tea wreck because it wrecks the tea. Ayo!
Ew.
Oh, I'm so happy you said that.
So that was tea. I wrote coffee, but that makes sense. Giles wouldn't be drinking coffee.
No,
He'd be
he's
drinking tea.
British, and he
Yeah.
was drinking out of a fancy teacup.
Okay, so I learned from a friend of mine who's in the industry that set decoration, there's this thing called the life layer, which is my dream job, which is like in Roseanne, especially all the pills on or even calendars or things that are on cork boards. And so I became obsessed with Giles's office space.
Yeah.
Definitely noticed the milk in the tea. I do think it was coffee because I drink tea and coffee. That was the consistency of coffee with
That looked like
cream in
coffee
it,
to me. And
I
I
don't
love
know.
coffee.
which
I
is
mean, I don't drink
problematic.
coffee,
It should be
but-
tea.
Yeah.
Maybe he was trying to stay up late and he actually
Well, he
opted for the
was.
coffee
Yeah.
because it was past tea time. If it's
I just
night.
feel like you wouldn't be drinking coffee, for the most part, out of a cup like that. That looked like a teacup to me.
You could refill it many times.
I'm looking at it right now. I have it paused on this because also on his cork board, there's some weird stuff on there. You keep going because this really comes up in the scene with Miss Calendar. So I'll wait until you get there.
Oh, okay, cool. Because I did not dig into it that deeply, so I'm excited. Giles' tea or coffee spilling. Xander and Willow take shelter under under a staircase at the Bronze. The library is like cracking in half, kind of like splitting like down the middle, and bookcases and books are falling over on like the second floor. And then the master, this is such a ridiculous scene to me. He's like, yes, yes, shake earth. This is a sign. We are in the final days. My time has come. Glory, glory.
He's
I wrote down
nuts.
final days fetish.
Yeah. He's really
he's
into
Because
it.
I feel like
Super
this
into
is a
it.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he the earthquake is over. And then he looks over at the Anointed One / Colin and he says, what do you think? 5.1?
5.1? Like on the Richter scale. That's what he's saying, yeah.
Yeah. And then we cut to the intro. So then back from the credits, and it's the next morning. Giles looks rumpled coming out of his office. So it pretty much looks like he spent the night there. Buffy walks in and remarks, the damage looks fairly structural. Are we safe in here? Giles is acting like a little standoffish.
Hold on, I'm going to stop you real quick.
Okay.
So when she first walks in, she says something that you say all the time.
Oh my God.
And I
what?
picked up on this. It's no big deal. It's just a small thing. But she says, how you doing there, Giles? That's something you say all the time. You say, how you doing there, Pat? And I was like, oh, that's where that came from. Nobody else says, how you doing there. They always say, how you doing? Or how's it going? Or what's up?
That's
But
so
you say,
funny.
how you doing there, Pat? And this is, how you doing there, Giles? And that's a Buffyism.
One thing I love about you watching it is that you're finding the things I think you said in the first or second episode that parts of Buffy must have been dropped into my DNA. So I
Yes.
love when you point this stuff out to me because I'm like, Buffy is my life. And
Yes.
literally my mannerisms are from this show. And it makes sense. I mean, I was 9-10 years old when I was watching this, all the way through, kind of my high school years, my middle school and high school years. So
Yeah, it's
makes
decoding
sense.
Sammy. That's what we should call this podcast. Decoding Sammy.
if we stop watching Lost, because I
Yeah.
don't think that Lost is really a big
No.
part of your DNA, but
No, not really. I only see it once, and I didn't
Yeah.
even finish it.
I would say Harrison Ford movies.
Those
your
I've seen a bunch of
DNA.
times. Yeah.
So yeah, Giles is acting a little standoffish, but he does say that they're safe. But it's probably best not to go up on the second floor, which is where kind of all the bookcases fell over. Buffy tells him that she killed 3 vampires, one practically on school grounds. So I'm thinking that's where they were. That's where she was in the slow-mo scene with Cordelia in the background. Buffy notices that Giles is distracted, and she says, Giles, care. I'm putting my life on the line, battling the undead. Look, I broke a nail, okay? I'm wearing a press-on. The least you could do is exhibit some casual interest. You could go, which of course then he does. And then he apologizes, says that he's glad she's all right, but he kind of brushes her off. He says he can't really talk. And she's like, okay, well, I can't put off my terrible fate any longer. To which Giles wheels around and is surprised. And she says, biology. After class, Buffy, Willow, and Xander talk about how boring class was. And Willow says, is this a line that you wrote down, Pat? Because I know you like Willow lines.
No,
write
I
it
have the line after though.
Okay, so she says, even I was bored and I'm a science nerd. Buffy says, don't say that. And then Willow says, no.
Nope, I don't have that
I'm
one.
not-
I have
okay.
one after.
Willow says, I'm not ashamed. It's the computer age. Nerds are in. They're still
Oh,
in,
yeah.
right?
That was like a B- Willow line for me,
Yeah,
so I didn't
that's
write
not
it
the
down.
best.
Yeah.
I always just like to check in with you. Xander tries to kind of get Willow to leave in a super obvious way. So then she kind of does, and then Xander awkwardly asks Buffy to spring fling. He even kicks a guy who was reading off of a bench. He's like, leave. Which is, I was like, that's a real jerk move, Xander.
Yeah, so I wrote down here, I think Buffy asks, what on earth is her deal? And then Xander just says, she's Willow.
Yeah. And it's like, okay.
Yeah. Okay, that explains it.
He gets super intense and then he just goes for it. He tells her he likes her a lot. And Buffy clearly wants to reject him without hurting his feelings.
Yeah.
It's very obvious.
She goes, what about Willow? And then he says, well, Willow's not looking to date you.
Yep.
And put a little asterisk next to that.
Yeah. And then he says, or if she is, she's playing it pretty close to the chest.
I thought was funny.
This is what I was afraid of, though. This whole season, I'm like, Xander, what are you doing? You're setting yourself up for failure. This isn't going to work out. The chemistry's not there.
Yeah, she's never
I
given him
also
anything.
hate it. Like I felt bad for Willow at the beginning because I was in a group of kind of like the freaks and geeks crowd, right? And
Yeah.
I always hated it whenever the guys in my group had crushes on the popular girls, and I was like, I'm right here.
Yeah,
I'm cute.
totally.
I'm just not wearing whatever
Yeah,
leather.
and being a jerk to everybody. I mean,
Yeah,
Buffy isn't,
or
but Willow is.
just
or
not even having
Cordelia
the
is.
social capital. But
Yeah.
what are you gonna have in common with that girl anyway?
Yeah.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that Buffy's a cool girl. It's not like Xander crushing on Cordelia, for example.
Right.
It's not so far outside of the realm of their little tribe that they've got going on,
Yeah.
but it is annoying.
Well, because Xander and Willow have been Xander and Willow forever, seeming, like according to what we know about them. And she's very clearly into him, and he just doesn't notice her at all.
But I feel like he knows that and he is comfortable with that and he likes that, but he doesn't really think that there's a relationship there. Or if he does, he's sort of pushing her off to the side and being like, I'm going to go for Buffy. If that doesn't work out, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because
I
he
also
does.
feel like it's like, well, she's blonde and new.
Right.
Yeah,
Shiny
definitely.
new girl.
And girls just hate that shit. Don't be going for the shiny new blonde girl.
Yeah. So
That
cliche.
said, I now dye my hair blonde. Oh, and then Xander negs Buffy.
Yeah. So Buffy's like, I don't want to spoil the friendship. And Xander kind of keeps pressing. Like and this was like also really uncomfortable because like, I don't know, Kathleen, if you've been in a situation where you're like really trying to be nice and you're just like,
100%.
dude, eventually I'm going to turn into a bitch and then you're going to be mad. And that's basically what happens here.
Like, come on,
And
you
then
just
they
don't
make
see
you
the
feel
light.
bad for saying no, and this is where this is where it all comes down. I feel like things have changed, and if we were rewriting this scene today, it would not have gone down like that.
Yeah.
She would have said no thanks, and he would have said, okay.
But I don't know. I think there are still plenty of guys who would.
Yeah,
and
I
he's
think there's
not-
still guys who would keep going.
He's not like really being a total jerk until after she just like really
He's
rejects
feeling
him.
sorry
but he's
for
just
himself
like,
here.
Yeah, he's just
Yeah.
like really pushing, and she's like, I'm trying to be nice, you know.
Yeah.
It
but
also
yeah.
made me think about how many guys I did end up going out with against my better judgment because I didn't want to hurt their feelings.
Yeah. Well, one piece of advice, probably the only like good piece of advice and I feel like I've told you this, Pat, before, so I don't know if it's come up before on this episode on like the podcast, but like the only like good thing I can say that my mom transferred to me advice wise was always, like, if a boy asks you to dance at the dance, always dance with them. Like, just give them one dance, because then if they turn into a serial killer later, they're not going to kill you.
Wow.
And alternately, if they turn a millionaire, you, like, danced with them once and they remember you as being nice. So I'm like,
That is interesting
what to
advice.
do with this advice.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know about that, but
yeah.
it's an interesting.
But I always did, and I'm not murdered yet, so
so
I'm
far,
also
good
not
advice.
with any millionaires. But sorry.
So I
Dave.
have a son, and I think I'm going to raise him. If you ask a girl to dance and she says no thanks, say okay and walk away.
Yeah, I think that's nice.
Don't
And then
try to
don't murder
convince her.
anybody afterwards.
Yeah, just
please
don't be a
murder,
murderer.
okay? Yeah, you got to really drill that in early too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'll have to hide my crossbow from him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't
I
let
would
him find that.
lock that up. You know, just have a crossbow closet instead of a gun closet. Have
cage.
Yeah, have a library
The
cage.
cage.
Yeah, a weapon
The
cache.
Giles cage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Giles cage.
So then she's like, basically like, I don't think of you that way. And then he asks her to try. Then he finally gives up and he says, I'm not him. I guess a guy's got to be undead to make time with you.
Ooh.
So yeah,
Ooh,
that
yeah.
was a real dick thing to say.
If I was Buffy, I would have been like, yeah, have you seen him?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like, sorry,
seriously.
dude, but
Yeah.
I've seen his chest and he's got a tattoo and it's all
I've seen
looking
his
good.
hairless chest.
And there's a cross burnt into it from my necklace.
Yeah.
You have one of those? Nope.
From the necklace that he gave me.
Yeah.
And also Angel can hold his own in a fight, you know?
Yeah.
That's
He's
really
got a lot going
sexy.
for him, except for the whole vampire thing.
Yeah, you know, they just can't have
I'm
a date
into
in the
that
sunlight.
too.
But
Yeah.
you know what?
As the Buffy of the group, I'm into the vampire situation.
He
Yeah.
doesn't breathe, though, so no snoring at night.
That's true.
That's a
Yeah.
really nice perk.
That is a
As
good
Angel
perk.
is your boy. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
so funny because remember we talked about that being a thing in the episode Angel? Because she's like, Angel, do you snore? And he's like,
yeah.
it's been a long time since anyone's been in a position to tell me or to let
He
me
could have
know.
totally leaky bucketed there and
Yeah,
been
he
like,
could have been
oh,
like,
actually,
well,
I don't.
breathe, so.
Whoops.
Whoops. Yeah, so anyway, Xander says he doesn't handle rejection well, and then he just kind of walks off. Then we see Giles in his office on the phone with someone that he says he needs to see, and then he says, come after sundown. And this is when Miss Calendar comes in. She's sort of like leaning on his doorway and says, you know, that outfit looks just like the one you wore yesterday, only wrinklier. Were you here all night? And he says that he's not up for socializing, and Miss Calendar, you know, of course, knows that something is going on.
Giles is in a tizzy in this.
Yeah, he's freaking out a little bit.
And I love how Miss Calendar always calls him Rupert.
Yeah.
I think she's the only one who calls him Rupert.
So everybody else that he interacts with on a daily basis are
Yeah.
students, and so they're calling him by his last name because like you wouldn't call your teachers by their first name. I like have to think about it that Rupert is his first name.
Right. So when she says it, you're like, who is she talking? Oh, right. It's
Oh,
Giles.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
She's of course reading the signs again, as Miss Calendar does, and she says that she like knows that something's going on. She says a cat last week gave birth to a litter of snakes. A family was swimming in Whisper Lake when the lake suddenly began to boil. And Mercy Hospital last night, boy was born with his eyes facing inward. I'm not stupid. This is apocalypse stuff. And throw in last night's earthquake, and I say we've got a problem. I would say the end is pretty seriously nigh.
I also feel like I've said these exact words verbatim this whole year.
This whole year.
This whole year, I've been walking into my room and telling my husband, I'm not stupid. This is apocalypse stuff.
Yeah, it's happening.
The end is pretty seriously nigh.
Yeah.
Get the crossbow.
This whole year feels like a cat giving birth to snakes.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, this is where I did notice his corkboard, and I just want to mention a few things on this.
Yeah.
One is a like small cutout portrait of Van Gogh, which, and I'm wondering, like, you know, set decorators, who knows, they're probably just doing their best, but I'm also in an age where every single decision is so intentional that I have to think that someone thought about this.
Yeah.
So Van Gogh with his ear cut off. There is a advertisement that says, and it's kind of like the Leonardo da Vinci arms drawing.
Oh, yeah, yep.
You know, the guy with the arms.
I forget
And
what
it
that's
says
called.
Leonardo Internet.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure there's a Stonehenge thing. It kind of pans across it. I'm on a frame where I can't see the whole thing. And then there's a few different conspiracy theory things and like a couple of kind of metaphysical healing looking advertisement flyers on there, including like a body with like a spiral in the torso. It's just interesting because Giles seems pretty grounded,
Yeah.
and even though he is the watcher, I think that he would be more skeptical about conspiracy theory stuff, but he might be into mystery a little bit, like Stonehenge. That makes sense.
Yeah. Well,
Maybe they're misdirects. Maybe they're like, I want them to think that I'm just a kook so that they write me off. So he puts up all this misdirection on his corkboard, and he keeps all of his vampire books like safely in his corner.
in his
You know?
cage.
Yeah. So people walk in, they're like, hi, librarian. Oh, okay. Interesting corkboard. We'll
cool.
see you another time. Thank you.
That could be. So two things. One, Willow has said in the first episode that Giles came from the British Museum. Like that's where he previously worked. So I don't know if these are relics from his office there, which is like random smattering of things.
Perhaps.
It also could be that he's just so wigging out about this thing that he read in the codex that he's just trying to, I don't know, find answers anywhere.
Right.
I mean, but it's not quite like Homeland level of like,
yeah. He doesn't
you
have
know,
like strings going
connecting
from,
with a string. It
Yeah.
doesn't seem like a manic. It doesn't seem like this was a part of this scene.
They're
It
just
seems
things that make him happy.
He unpacked and he got his new job and he was like, let me pin these things to the corkboard.
Right.
Yeah. So then Giles is like, I'm not sure I can trust you. And she's like, hey, remember when I helped free this demon from the net? Like, I feel like you can trust me. She says that she's scared and that she has a crazy monk. She says, I have a crazy monk emailing me from Cortona about some anointed one. Does Cortona ring any bells?
That's the Italian, yes?
Yeah.
That's where the demon came from?
Yeah.
Yeah, in I, Robot Eugene.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Cortona, Italy is where Moloch was trapped in that book initially by a bunch of monks. So, yes, good job, Pat.
Yes.
Gold star today. And then this catches Giles' attention because they believed the anointed one to be dead, because they believed it was Borba / Pork and Beans guy.
Pork and beans. Make it a comeback.
So Giles orders Miss Calendar to contact the monk and find out everything that he knows. Cordelia and the guy she was making out with in the car talk about getting some tech ready for the spring fling. She spots Willow and says that she really likes her outfit. And Willow's like, no, you don't.
Yeah. Let's cut to the chase.
She's like, I'm not buying it. Cordelia's like, no, I really don't, but I need a favor. And she asks Willow if she can hook up a sound system at the Bronze for the dance.
This is the part of Willow that I am, the AV nerd. The guy who knows how to hook things up, projectors, and yeah.
That is
me.
true. This is a part of Willow that I am not. So
Yeah.
I'd be like, ooh. As Cordelia's talking to her, Willow spots Xander kind of mopily throwing a ball against the classroom wall. And she agrees to help Cordelia, then goes in to check on Xander, who tells her that asking out Buffy on a scale of 1 to 10 sucked.
It sucked.
It sucked. And he's like, she's still jonesing for Angel and could care less about me. And Willow's like, well, at least now you know. So Xander's like, yeah, you're right. The deal's done. The polls are in and it's time for my concession speech. Which, hey, doesn't that feel relevant? No, not gonna touch that one.
Kathleen, I never get political on this show.
And I am always trying.
She's trying to push my buttons politically.
Oh, that kind of went over my head. This is why I had to quit podcasting, because I was constantly getting political.
Yeah, because Xander says the polls are in and it's time for my concession speech.
Gotcha.
Xander asks Willow if she'll go with him, as if this is the first time the thought has ever occurred to him. Yeah. And Willow turns him down, and she goes, you think I want to go to the dance with you and watch you wish you were at the dance with her? You think that's my idea of hijinks? You should know better. That kills me.
That kills you in what way?
I just want someone to love Willow for Willow and put her number one. That is what I want for her. So it hurts.
But you got to respect the way that she's standing up for herself.
Oh, 100%.
How she doesn't want to be second place.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to be just...
I am super proud that she does that, because it would be really easy for her to just be like, okay. It only kills me because I hurt for Willow, but I'm proud that she stood up. Yeah. So she leaves and Xander says, did you write this quote down, Pat?
Oh, yeah, I sure did. He said, I'm going to go home and listen to country music, the music of pain.
I knew you'd write that one down.
And I also agree that country music is the music of pain, because I do not like country music.
Yes.
So it pains me to listen to it.
I agree. What are you?
I vehemently disagree, but that's okay.
Okay.
My wife disagrees as well. She loves country music, and I just can't get into it. I don't like the twanginess.
I'm more like of a Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash,
That's
Dolly
like
Parton.
that I'm
some,
okay
like,
with.
classics.
Yeah.
Have you all talked about how Joss Whedon was involved in the movie?
Yeah.
Okay, but tangent. Did you know that he was watching at the premiere the movie with his wife in the audience and just practically in tears because it was so bad?
Oh, no.
And she, like any sweet, supportive wife or spouse of a creative, she put her hand on his knee and she was like, maybe you'll get to redo it again one day the way that you want to do it. And he was like, any creative who's realistic.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me? This was my one shot.
This is going to bury
You
me.
know, Hollywood, it's so rare that you can even get a movie made or a show made, much less a way to redo something that is a total flop, right? But became a cult classic in its own right. He did. He got to do it again in his own way. So she was right. Which against all odds.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
such
never
a
knew
sweet
that
story.
story.
I have not seen the movie yet, but I know Sammy and I have talked about possibly watching the movie as a bonus episode of this podcast.
It would be really fun.
Yeah, that we might have to get around to that sooner rather than later.
And I almost feel like we should actually watch it together, like on Zoom.
Yeah?
It's just so ridiculous that I just feel like we
You gotta
need
see
to
my
watch it
face.
live. Yeah.
And then maybe your listeners you guys can sync it up so that your listeners watch the movie
Ooh, do
and
a watch
you're
along?
basically giving commentary on it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea. Like almost
Yeah.
like
the
a
director track.
mystery science theater.
Yeah, commentary.
Yeah. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah, Xander's going to go home and listen to country. At night, Buffy grabs a steak out of her locker, turns on the faucet in the bathroom, and blood comes out.
Yeah, very dark bathroom, too.
Yeah.
I was like, how can you see anything in there? What are they
Well,
trying
it
to
is-
save?
It is
Electricity?
nighttime, so they're probably, they have like one light as opposed to like all 10 lights
Yeah.
or something. I don't know.
Too dark.
Cost-saving
Mood lighting.
measures.
Yeah.
So she like goes to tell Giles, who's in the library, and then she sees him talking to Angel and decides to eavesdrop instead. They're arguing about the codex. Angel insists it must be wrong, and Giles says that there's nothing written in the codex that doesn't come to pass, and that, quote, tomorrow night, Buffy will face the Master and she will die. Buffy laughs, and Angel and Giles notice her. And this whole scene always makes me cry. So, Buffy's like, so that's it, huh? I remember the drill. One Slayer dies, next one's called. Wonder who she is. And then she looks at Giles. She goes, will you train her or will they send someone else? They say how he's going to kill me. Do you think it'll hurt? And she just like,
She tears up.
she tears
Yeah.
up and she's
breaks
like
down.
very vulnerable because
Yep.
she's like, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
How do you handle something like that? Angel kind of moves to hug her, but she brushes him off angrily. She asks if Giles was going to tell her, and he said that he hoped he wouldn't have to, that there would be some way around it. And Buffy is just like, fine, I quit. That's my way around it. They can find someone else to fight the master. Giles says no one else can, and he's like, the signs indicate. And Buffy says, the signs? And she throws a book at him. She says, read me the signs, and throws another book. Tell me my fortune. You're so useful sitting here with all your books. You're really a lot of help. I'm like actually tearing up.
Oh, geez.
This scene really
Really
gets
got
me.
to you. Yeah.
Because it's just so like,
It got to me too.
yeah. She's this little girl. I mean, she's only 16,
This is where she realizes, I think, and this whole episode in general, the weight of her job.
Yeah.
And the burden of being a Slayer. And even juxtaposed with some of the earlier, like, Giles, I broke my press-on nail. Like, even
Yeah.
her tone of voice changes. And you realize, like, okay, this is Buffy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is when the episode really takes a turn for the dramatic, and it stays in the dramatic for the entirety of the episode. The music changes, it gets really slow and ominous piano, and it's just the whole episode is pretty somber and kind of a downer. And I was like, this isn't the Buffy I signed up for. I want more Willow, I want more Xander quips, and I'm getting a whole lot of sadness.
Oh, so this was your kind of problem with this episode.
Get ready, Pat.
Oh, boy.
Hang on.
It's going to get so serious after this.
You are in for a ride.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's a good mix, but
Yeah.
there's definitely
It just becomes more layered.
Yeah.
It becomes a little bit less surfacey and a little bit more real.
Then we cut to Willow at home. She's looking at a photo of her and Xander. She picks up the phone to call him. And then we cut to Xander laying down on his messy bed, listening to country music. He picks up the phone, slams it down.
Slams it.
Like,
I love
hangs
this
up.
this camera shot too. Is like an overhead camera shot looking down, and
Yeah.
he's sort of upside down in the bed, just stuff sprawled
So
all
miserable.
over. Yeah, miserable listening to the music, and I was just like, I've been there.
We cut to Buffy looking through a photo album on her bed, and there's like another sad song playing. Her mom.
It's also interesting how they juxtapose these two scenes. So it's Xander on his bed being sad about a normal teenage rejection, which is also life-shattering. We've all been there as teenagers, brokenhearted. But then Buffy is on her bed sad about carrying the weight of the world literally on her shoulders. And so I think that this is also where it really starts to position and anchor Buffy even amongst her friends. Like, she is not one of them.
Mm-hmm.
She is separate from them.
She's
And I
got
think
bigger
that's
problems.
probably a theme that you'll start to see moving forward.
Yeah.
Not that I know.
But she's also reacting in such a teen way. Like, I think that's what's kind of so interesting. And I didn't think about it until you brought it up, Kathleen, of like just juxtaposing these two scenes. Like, they're reacting to very different things, but they're reacting in very similar ways. Just like being on their bed, pondering, Buffy's going through photos, Xander's just like sad, listening to country music. But it's still a very like similar teen reaction.
Right. Both of the worlds are crushed at that moment.
Yeah.
And relatively very different too.
Right.
Perspective is everything.
Yes.
But, Xander doesn't know that Buffy has just been told that she's going to die. So
Right.
Buffy's mom comes in and asks how she's doing. Buffy tries to convince her mom to go away with her all weekend, but she's like, the gallery is open on weekends. Like, I can't just run away. And then she says, isn't prom or spring fling or whatever they're calling it tomorrow night? But she's clearly not excited about it. So her mom kind of presses and kind of guesses. She's like, oh, so someone asked you, but, it wasn't the right someone. She's like, sometimes I do know what's going on. And then she's like, well, I guess it's a bad time, for me to like show you this. And she reveals a beautiful white dress that she bought for Buffy to wear to the
She
spring
buys
fling.
Buffy a wedding dress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
That is a wedding
Prom.
dress.
It's definitely a wedding dress. It's very pretty.
Visually makes sense later in the episode.
Yes.
Yeah. It works for the motifs.
It does. And then she encourages her to go, even if it means going alone.
Then Buffy's mom shares a story about how she went alone
Yes.
to something.
Yeah, to
And that's
prom.
how she met her dad. And then she says, but her dad was on a date with someone else. And then there's a story that I will never tell you. And I'm like, did Buffy's mom have a threesome with Buffy's dad? And this date?
That
Did
is
anyone
not
else
what
get
I
that
was
impression?
thinking. I just thought she somehow like stole him away from that woman, but
That's
I guess
what I
that would
thought,
be.
too.
I guess like that
I
doesn't
was
seem
like,
like
I
that bad
thought
of a
they all
story to
did
tell.
it.
Maybe.
I mean, but who's like, well, not I. Oh, you will never hear that story,
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. That makes more sense.
It does make
now
sense.
that
Because no
you're
one wants to hear a
saying it.
story about their. It's fine hearing about your mom stealing a guy away.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's cute teenage
It's not okay
hijinks.
hearing about your mom having a threesome.
That's
right.
true.
That you can't ever hear.
No, I never would want to hear that. So next day at Sunnydale High, Cordelia and Willow are in the hall, and Cordelia's complaining that Kevin didn't do what he was supposed to the previous night and like bring all the equipment to the bronze and set things up.
I have a quick question about this.
Yeah.
Like the way that Cordelia's talking about this guy that she's been making out with in this episode, I felt like I missed something. Is she under some sort of spell? Because she's always like, oh, it's so cute how he is. Or is she just being kind of
She's
ditzy
just
about
being
this
ditzy.
relationship?
Yeah, I felt like she was actually starting to feel something for a boy for the first time because normally it's like sport for her. So like she just goes out with
Yeah.
the cute boys because they like her and she likes them and she's playing the field and it's fun. But I feel like this time she was actually starting to find something from this boy that she thought was cute and sort of endearing and she was enjoying his company. So that's what I was
I
thinking.
see. Okay.
Yeah. And so she's kind of like, he basically blew me off and I find it cute.
Which I thought was ridiculous. That's why I thought that she was under a spell. I don't think that Cordelia would stand for that.
It's out of character.
It is out of character.
Yeah.
I will also say, though, I think that Joss Whedon has a hard time writing romantic relationships, and especially dialogue in romantic relationships.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Across the board,
That's
across
why-
every single Joss Whedon show.
That's why he nails the Xander lines though.
Yeah. Well, he has said that he was Xander. Like he was very much
There
like
you go.
Xander in high school. So
Yeah.
And it shows.
it shows.
Yeah. Clearly.
So they kind of look through the door to the AV room. There's like a, one of those like high school or like school doors where it's mostly like wood or whatever, but then there's like a slit of a window,
Yeah, tiny window.
tiny window.
Yeah.
So they're kind of like looking in through the AV room as Cordelia's still talking about it. She's like, look, they're in there watching cartoons. And then we as viewers get to see inside the room before Cordelia and Willow do. And there
Yeah.
are a whole lot of dead people. I counted 5 that I could see.
Yeah.
And there's blood smeared in places and bite marks on their necks.
gruesome.
Cordelia opens the door and Kevin, the guy who stood her up, falls out, or stood her up because he was dead, falls out and he's got vampire bite marks on his neck.
So this scene shook me a little bit. And I think I actually Googled when was Columbine because these things happened around the same time. And I
Yeah.
was like, is this commentary? Especially whenever we get into Willow's
Her reaction.
Like Buffy goes to visit Willow and Willow's upset about this. She's like, these were my friends. I knew these people and they are dead. It's the first time we see a teenager shooken up about all the death happening in their school.
Yeah.
I was like, is this commentary on school shootings? And it's just so weird that that's such a part of our culture now. In
Yeah.
fact, so my son is in elementary school and that little school window or the little window in the doors now, typically covered in paper for school shooting measures.
Jeez.
Wow.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah.
And so not to like make this, too much of a I think it's a little far-fetched, but I did Google it to see when did Columbine happen? When did this episode happen? Columbine happened in 99 and this was in 97. So it was 2 years before.
Yeah.
But through the context of violence in schools now, I kind of had a hard time watching this scene with all these
It was
dead
a little
teenagers
shocking to see a bunch
and
of
all
bodies.
the blood and stuff.
Yeah.
I would imagine that if they were making it today, I don't know that they could have done the same thing. Or, they are bold and they do it because they're like, look, this is the reality. Like, this is what's happening.
Well, and a lot of times monsters in films are typically reflecting what's happening in
Right.
the world.
And that's exactly
and
what
so I
Joss
think
was trying
that
to
would
do.
kind of be mirroring the monster that is violence and gun violence and school shootings and all of that done in a more creative way by using vampires to represent that message.
Yeah. And that's definitely something that Joss Whedon was trying to do. Like we talked about in our first episode, his the tagline for this season was high school is hell. And it was all about like taking the real terrors that teens face and making them into demons. And that really happens like throughout Buffy, it's not just this one season. Yeah, so then we look at the TV screen and there's a small handprint in blood on the TV screen.
Oh, I didn't even put that together that it was
I
small.
didn't put that together either.
Yeah, it was just like
the
handprint.
anointed one.
Yeah, it's a little
mini
baby.
me.
I noticed
Yeah.
it because I was like, oh, it creeps
Oh,
me
good
out.
catch.
And it was a cartoon playing on
Yeah,
the TV
that makes
a
sense.
kid would watch.
He was
Exactly.
watching Porky
Teenagers.
Pigs
Yeah,
or whatever it was.
He
yeah.
fed a lot and then needed to watch his cartoons. I don't know.
Wow.
Regular Saturday morning for vampire.
Right.
Saturday night, I guess.
Right.
Wouldn't be morning. So then we cut to Buffy wearing her dress, and her mom rushes in to say, there's something on the news, Willow. Cut to Buffy sitting on Willow's bed as Willow tries to explain to her what she saw. And she's like, I'm not okay. I knew those guys. I go to that room every day. And when I walked in there, it wasn't our world anymore. They made it theirs and they had fun. And then we see like a tear kind of roll down her cheek. And she says, what are we going to do?
This is the point in the episode where I was like, man, can it get any darker? It's so dark. It's so depressing. Where's all the fun?
Yeah. And Willow crying is like the worst to me.
Oh, that's
my
your-
God. It
yeah.
always gets me. Not that I wasn't already got in this episode by Buffy.
Right.
But yeah, so like that got me too. Buffy asks Willow to promise her that she'll stay in tonight. She turns to leave and Willow says she likes her dress. And Buffy says, take care, and leaves. Which, like, I don't know that I ever thought about this before, but it really hit me this episode because I was like, she's probably thinking this is the last time she'll see Willow. And
That-
so
yeah,
she's like,
that's what I
take
thought.
care. And like, obviously doesn't want to make a big thing about it to like get Willow upset and concerned. But I was like, oh, like that's the thing that she says she's leaving. And she's like, this is probably the last time I'm going to see my best friend Willow. Then we cut to the Master in his chambers. He's attempting to break through the force field again. And he says, soon. And then kind of like scoots the Anointed One out of his lair. Then at Sunnydale High Library, Miss Calendar's recounting everything Giles has told her about the Master and the Anointed One. She says, okay, so this Master guy tried to open the Hellmouth, but he got stuck in it. And now all the signs are reading that he's going to get out, which opens the Hellmouth, which brings the demons, which ends the world. And Giles is basically like, yep, that's it. He's gathering up some weapons, and Miss Calendar says the monk disappeared, but he sent out one last message, a biblical passage, which seems to indicate the Anointed One is a child. And actually, I think it's right before she says this, she's like, the thing I don't get is that, like, Buffy is the Slayer. She's so tiny. Giles tells her that he's going to face the Master. instead of Buffy. And once again, Buffy was listening. So she kind of walks in and is like, no, you're not. And then they argue. And Giles is like, I made up my mind first. They have kind of like a childish argument, I feel like. Giles yells at her, saying nothing she can say will change his mind. So she punches him, knocking him out.
This is such a movieism where you can just punch somebody and they pass out like soundly. Like, this will make you go to sleep for a little bit and then I can do whatever I want. That is not reality. If you were to punch somebody
But
like
to
that.
be fair, she's the Slayer.
Yeah.
She can definitely throw a punch that'll knock
Oh, I know she
someone
can
out.
Especially
throw
Giles.
a punch for sure. I'm just saying the safety and health of Giles.
Oh, like the being out.
Yeah, you can't be out like that. It's not good for your brain. It's very traumatic, especially Giles' brain. I mean, come on. I was just looking out for Giles.
Well, yeah, he's been knocked out. This is the third time he's been knocked out this season. And then Miss Calendar says, you fight the master and you'll die. And Buffy says, maybe. And she picks up the crossbow. She says, maybe I'll take him with me.
So Giles actually says in this part that he thinks he can face the master himself, or that he's going to face the master.
Yeah. He doesn't necessarily say that he fully believes that he can.
And this is where Giles becomes the ultimate father figure for Buffy.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's like, my head has been in the books for so long that I forgot
Right.
about reality, basically.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is my Slayer. Like, this is my kid, basically. And like,
He's
He'll
out of
die
options.
trying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not going to happen because Buffy knocks him out. So she leaves the library, and outside the school, she runs into the Anointed One right away. He's trying to pose as a little boy who needs help, and she's like, it's okay, I know who you are, and holds his hand as he leads her away. After a commercial break, we get Xander upset in the library yelling about the news that Buffy has gone after the master, and Willow's there too. Giles and Willow try to calm him down, and
Why would she hold Mini-Me's hand?
I don't know.
If I was Buffy, I'd be like, I know who you are. We're not holding hands, pal. Just scoot.
Maybe it's
Go
just
on.
an instinct because she's like, I know he's going to lead me into hell, but he's also little, and I feel like I need to
Come on.
protect him.
It's ridiculous. I'm not holding the little devil's hand. Come on.
Little devil.
Yeah, little devil.
I will say I have a hard time standing next to a little kid without like holding their
Really?
hand.
You like,
Totally. I would have held that little devil's
you
hand.
would have?
Yeah. I think it's also maybe it's commentary on how nobody's really good or bad, and these are both ultimately children. I did have the thought whenever they held each other's hands, like, this kid is probably 9 or 10 and she's 16.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever you're young watching this show, it seems like a world's of difference. But whenever you're a grown-ass adult watching this show, you're like, oh,
They're
they're
both
only
kids.
a few years apart,
Yeah.
right? And so they're both kind of in the boat together. This poor kid, who knows what happened to him in his lifetime that he even became the Anointed One.
Right.
And so I think that she's just kind of showing some compassion for
Right.
how much everything sucks.
Well, he got pulled off that bus, right? The transport bus.
Yeah.
Like, wasn't he just a child of some mom? And then Borba, Pork and Beans guy, didn't like
turned him.
Well, he was turned, and also Colin, the little boy, was turned as well because of that pack of vamps that attacked the tour bus,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the transport bus, yeah.
Or he was
So-
always bad. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I
I
would-
don't know.
And we know that Buffy loves vampires.
Yeah,
so
so she's
That's
like, I'm
true.
gonna
his
She's got a
hand.
soft spot. Okay.
He's not trying to
I
attack
liked
her right
it.
away.
I thought it was sweet. I also think it's important to note that Buffy is now wearing a black leather motorcycle jacket over her white dress.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you've got this good contrast of like badass but also innocent.
Yeah.
She's always on top of her style.
It might
She's got
might be the jacket that Angel gave her, but I imagine that would be
Oh.
bigger,
Oh.
right?
Well, she could have got it hemmed.
She's like, I'll wear your jacket, but it needs to fit me better. I can't have,
Yeah.
you know, I can't
She
look
gets
like.
Joyce to take it in a little. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't ask, Mom. Just, you know,
Just
don't ask
come
me
on,
where
make,
I got
make
this.
it look good, okay?
Smells like man, Buffy. They try to figure out how they can help, and then Xander and Willow are both kind of jerks about Miss Calendar. She says something to try to help out, and Xander is like tries to shut her down, and then Willow's like, "What? How come she gets to be in the club?"
Yeah.
But they
I
also-
kind of like that though, because Willow is always the one who's like digging things up and helping out, and now she might feel a little threatened, a little
Oh, like
replaced.
Miss Calendar
being
stepping on
part,
her turf.
Right. She's like stepping. She's like, "Hey, I'm always the info girl helping out Giles," and now
Yeah.
this other girl comes in and starts taking my job. Like, why is she helping out?
Xander says basically that his priority is helping Buffy. Giles says we don't know where she's gone. And Xander's like, well, I think I know how to find out. So he hits up Angel, which I'm like, how the hell does he know where Angel lives? He just shows up at Angel's house.
He's got his business card.
It just says Angel and on the other side, like an address. Xander tells Angel that Buffy's gone to fight the Master, and he basically just does not give him the option of not taking him to the Master. He holds up a cross to him and he's like, I don't like you. At the end of the day, I pretty much think you're a vampire, but Buffy's got this big old yen for you. She thinks you're a real person, and right now I need you to prove her right. And Angel kind of looks at him and is like, you're in love with her. And Xander says, aren't you? So these two guys, both in love with Buffy, team up to try and save her. Giles, Miss Calendar, and Willow are trying to figure out where the Hellmouth will open. Buffy reaches the Master, still in her pretty dress and leather jacket, crossbow raised. And the Anointed One just kind of like leaves. He's just sort of like, here you go,
Saunters
bye.
off.
Yeah, he just like saunters off. Doesn't say anything.
I'm going to go watch cartoons.
Yeah.
He's like, I got to get out of here before it goes down.
Yeah.
Yeah, things are going to happen.
I don't know what's going to
My
happen.
job here is done.
Yeah.
And then she kind of wanders down into his lair and makes some quip about water damage. And the Master says, Pat, did you write this one down?
She says, you should really call a contractor. This place looks like it has some major water damage. And then he says, oh, good. The feeble banter portion before the fight. Why don't we just cut to and then he gets the arrow shot at him, but he catches it.
Yeah, so she spins and launches a bolt in his direction, but he catches it. And he's
Yeah.
like, nice shot.
I love that line. It was such a good line.
I had a feeling you would like that
Because
one.
I was actually starting to write that myself. I was like, oh, here we go with the feeble band. Oh,
Oh, he says it for me.
I wasn't actually saying
Very
those
self-aware.
Yeah, exactly.
words. Yeah.
We see Xander and Angel heading through a basement, and Xander thinks that Angel's checking out his neck. He's like, stop
Yeah.
looking at my neck. You should have eaten before we left.
So
I
ridiculous.
don't know why I really liked that line.
Yeah, it's funny.
Willow says the last time the Master tried to raise was at the harvest, and all of the vampires went to the bronze. So she and Miss Calendar leave to warn the spring flame goers. Then we see the Master taunting Buffy. He comes up behind her, knocks the crossbow out of her hand, and grabs her neck. Then we cut back to Miss Calendar and Willow, who find the vampires right outside of Sunnydale High. Buffy gets out of the Master's grip, but he pulls her back with his vampire thrall. He takes off her leather jacket and just kind of has her like frozen to the spot. And he says, you tried. It was noble of you. You heard the prophecy that I was about to break free and you came to stop me. But prophecies are tricky creatures. They don't tell you everything. You're the one that sets me free. If you hadn't come, I couldn't go. Think about that.
So she just freezes in fear here.
Yeah. I think she's just like
That's just
frozen
fear,
in terror.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't look
Yeah.
like he's holding her in any way.
Right. He was just behind her, which is a great jump scare. Before we cut to the other scene,
Yeah.
we see him like pop. He's like, ring. It kind of got me. I was like, no.
Yeah. The Master bites her neck and he's like, oh God, the power. And then just kind of drops her. She passes out and he lets her fall into this like gross water thing that's underground.
Yeah, I was like, where's the blood well? I missed
Not
the
the
blood
blood
well.
well.
If there's any episode that she could fall into a blood well, this is the episode. But
Yeah.
it was just some puddle.
Yeah, she does not fall into the blood well. It's just
Yeah.
probably sewer water.
Ugh,
I
filth.
know. Well, that's kind of where they are. And then he blasts through the magical barrier. And Angel and Xander arrive, find Buffy in the gross water. Angel pulls her out, checks her pulse, and says that she's dead. And then we cut to commercial. Xander doesn't believe it. He says, if she drowned, there's a shot, CPR. And Angel says, you have to do it. I have no breath. So Xander attempts CPR. And I wrote...
On a filth water mouth, too.
I know.
Ugh.
But I wrote, now, Pat did say there would be a scenario in which Buffy and Xander
This isn't a
accidentally kiss.
Nah,
Does this count?
There was no romance in this. This isn't. This does not count.
So there
I'm not
has
gonna
to be
call this-
romance in it?
No, well, okay. Let me.
Well, because your prediction
Perceived
said
romance.
Your prediction said that there would be a scenario that would lead them to accidentally kiss. This
Right.
is
So
that.
let me. No, this is not a kiss, though. Let me clarify. I think it will be more like she's blindfolded or something, and they're at some party or something, and she
And they
thinks
play
she's gonna
7 minutes in heaven.
yeah, something like that, right?
And they think it's someone else.
Yeah, she thinks it's Owen or something, and she's like, okay,
You
well, I
said
guess I'll
Owen
just
is
do a
never
little
coming back.
kiss. Okay, well, he's coming back. Well, not
Just
him,
for
but
spin the
somebody
bottle.
like him, okay? Yeah, just something like that they're going to kiss awkwardly,
Okay.
where it's a miscommunication, and it's awkward.
A comedy
Season
of
2,
errors.
Season 3. Season 2.
Okay. So this doesn't count.
No.
So he kind of works on her a bit, CPR wise, and then she comes back coughing and spluttering. But first it's like, she's like, and there's this like
Yeah.
magical, I hated that. I was like, this sort of like takes me out and is like,
Me too.
I don't know what
I was like,
you call
that's
that
the
technically, but
dramatic gasp.
yeah. But like the camera like zooms in on her.
Oh yeah, like
Real
pushes
quick.
in just a little bit, like a
Yeah.
little snap zoom.
And it's like,
yeah,
and it plays this like sound, I feel like. I don't know. I was like, oh, this is cheesy.
yeah, it's a little too magical.
Then we cut to Cordelia showing up in her car and saving Willow and Miss Calendar. And she just like crashes right through the school, driving them up to the library.
Which also like the boldness of just driving through the school.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's
I was
Cordelia.
impressed.
She's like, we gotta get out of here.
And man, that school just takes a beating.
Being chased by like a whole army of like zombie type vampires,
Yeah,
right?
they definitely
So-
look like zombies.
Desperate times.
Yeah.
Desperate measures. You got to drive through the doors of the school.
Yeah, she busts right through, drives on up to the library.
And she is in the past episodes terrible driver, right? She cannot normally drive.
Well, so in Witch, she was taking driving lessons.
Right.
And
that's
then
what I'm
she went
remembering.
blind.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that doesn't count.
Yeah.
then.
So she was driving blind, basically. So I feel like that
What a
shouldn't
bad
count
driver.
against her.
Okay, fine.
They barricade the door, and in the back of the library, something with like octopus-like tentacles starts pushing its way through the floor.
Yeah, like Tremors.
The tentacles really gross
I
me
Me
out.
know,
too.
they're so
They were
nasty.
disgusting. And they made the sound effects is what really got me.
Yes.
They
It's like,
look like umbilical cords.
yeah.
Like they had
And
that
then like
coloring.
also that alien looking
Yeah.
thing came out
With the-
too
with the teeth.
Well, it was all the same thing.
I felt like that thing, whatever this, it came out of left field. Like, I did not see this coming in this episode. Like, I understand it's a hellmouth and
Yeah.
anything can come out of it. But this was like, there was no setup for this creature or what it is or what it's a manifestation of, right? Did
Yeah,
I miss
I mean,
something?
there's-
That's a good point. It does feel a little bit disjointed.
Yeah, there's definitely no explanation of it, but Miss Calendar, when she's talking earlier with Giles and sort of like recounting everything that he had told her and he's kind of gathering weapons, she's like, so the master's going to open the Hellmouth and then monsters are going to come out of it? So that's really the only, kind of, I guess,
Setup line for it.
Yeah, so they're,
Yeah.
and I mean, he doesn't know. I don't know how you could know if there's like all kinds of different types of monsters. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
how you could know what exactly is going to pop out, but
It just felt
Yeah.
like the one extra step where they're like, we already got a bunch of chaos happening. We got
Yeah.
the master doing his thing over here. We got all the zombie vampires like coming in the doorways and stuff. Like, let's up the ante. There's got to be one more thing, right?
well,
Comes in
something's
threes.
got to come out of the actual Hellmouth.
It's got to come out.
Like,
of
that's
this
what they're saying. Like,
hole,
so I'm with you. I don't think it needed to be this thing because it was
Yeah.
so gross.
They could have dedicated a whole episode to this thing. It would have been great. They could have
Yeah.
had like a bottle episode where they're stuck in the library and they can't get out, and
I
there's
don't
this
want a
thing
whole
and it keeps
episode
getting
dedicated
in.
to this thing.
Oh, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I sort of do and I don't. But if you're gonna do it, like, do it right. Like, give
yeah.
it a whole episode. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It just felt like out of place.
Yeah. I mean, I would have just rather it not be there at all in that case. But
Yeah.
anyway.
It was gross.
So the master is standing on a balcony on top of Sunnydale High and he says, "My world, my beautiful world." He's so intense this episode.
Yeah. Well, he's excited to get out.
He's so excited.
He's been in quarantine for so long.
I
He's
know.
out and he's just like,
60
yes.
years.
Ah! Yeah.
Imagine we would all look like that after 60
Right?
years.
We would. Yeah.
Angel and Xander help Buffy up. They tell her that the master has gone up and they're worried that she's still weak from the bite. And she's like, "No, I feel strong. I feel different. Let's go." And back at the library, vampires are trying to get in through the back windows. So Miss Calendar and Willow run up to barricade the windows with the bookcases. This is like on that second floor level. While Giles leaves Cordelia to close up his office. And a tentacle is creeping closer and closer to Willow's foot. A vampire breaks through the window and the library door and grabs Cordelia's arm, and she screams. Then we cut to Buffy walking with purpose in front of Xander and Angel, and we've got the intro music theme playing over the scene.
Yeah, this was a huge
literally,
moment.
whenever this happened, I was like, yes! I was so excited.
So
I pictured Sammy doing like jump kicks in her living room while watching this, like, yes, yes, yes.
I wasn't, because Dave and I were just like sitting on the couch watching it after probably having dinner or something, being in a food coma, because I watched it twice. That's something that I'm doing now every episode.
You're trying to watch them twice? I've thought of it, yeah.
Because I'm like, if I only watch it and I'm taking notes the whole time, it's not like... It's not a fun experience, really. Like,
right.
It's just, it feels like work. So I watch
you
it
gotta watch
once
it again
for fun.
just pleasure.
Yeah, and then I watch it again to take all the notes.
Yeah.
So Xander asks how she knows where the master is going, and Buffy's just like, I know. They approach a vampire by the school, and what does Buffy say?
I got it.
What is it?
I may be dead. Is this the
No,
one?
no.
Oh, okay. Crap. Ah!
She says,
Blew it.
oh, look, a bad guy. And like punches him out or something, and he just falls. She tells Angel and Xander to guard the entrance to the roof as she goes up, and she says, one way or another, this won't take long. Cordelia bites the vampire's arm and is like, see how you like it, which I kind of love.
Yeah, she's
just
scrappy.
Like, ah!
Yeah.
Yeah, she's very scrappy. So
Yeah.
definitely warming to Cordelia a little bit in these last two episodes. And the tentacle wraps around Willow's ankle, then around the railing, and just like busts out, like fully busts out of the hellmouth. 3 crazy heads, chomping teeth everywhere. I called it a 3-headed, many-teethed worm-type demon, because I don't know what the real thing is.
I thought it looked like Alien. Like, what's the Alien artist? Geiger?
Yeah. Yeah,
you know,
Geiger.
like that kind of vibe.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it did feel like that. It's just kind of gross.
Yeah.
It was
it's
nasty.
pretty gross.
Yeah.
Buffy approaches the master, and he's pissed off that she's not dead. And he goes, you're dead. Buffy says, this is a line, Pat.
This is my cue. I may be dead, but I'm still pretty.
Which is more than I can say for you.
Oh, right. I missed the second part.
And the master says, you are destined to die. It was written. Buffy says, what can I say? I flunked the written. And he tries his hypnosis stuff again. Then in the library, Miss Calendar and Willow are screaming for Giles, who comes up and hacks at the wormy tentacle demon.
Where I fully threw up in my mouth.
Oh, yeah, it was so gross.
Yeah, it's gross. This is where I wrote, the noises that the root nasty things make are disgusting.
Yes, it's pretty gross. The master taunts Buffy, and then she looks at him and she says, you have fruit punch mouth.
I wrote that one too.
I love that line.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's one of my favorite lines from the show. It's just so silly.
So many kids I remember growing up had fruit punch mouth.
Yeah, exactly. It was a real thing. And
Yeah,
he's just
all
kind of
kids.
like, what?
Yeah.
So she
I wonder if
uses-
that's a vestige of the past. How many kids have fruit punch mouth now? I feel like it was
don't
from like
know.
those Hugs fruit punch, like the cheapo fruit punches that were like, huge in the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, you guys
I
are the
mean, you
ones
have
with
kids. Are they disgusting? Do they have fruit punch mouth?
I feel like the new fruit punches, they're not as stainy.
Or they have like the straw, like the Capri Suns?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's
they're
like juice
straws.
boxes. No kid is drinking a fruit
Right.
punch out of like a
little jug.
glass.
But it really throws him off his game.
Yeah, he's like, huh?
And then she tells him to save the hypnosis crap for the tourists. And then
Yeah.
fights ensue all around. Buffy's fighting the Master, Angel and Xander are fighting vampires. Giles is fighting the tentacle demon. Buffy gets a hold of the Master's neck, and she's like, you're that amped about hell? Go there, and tosses him behind her, where he crashes through the sunroof atrium thing, whatever it is,
Atrium.
over the library.
This is such a great, like, I didn't even put it together, like, because I noticed the shots at the library early on in the episode
Yes.
when we actually see the atrium and stuff. I'm like, wow, we've never actually seen the ceiling of this library.
Yeah, so they're
and
setting you
knew
up for
that it
this.
was a
You
window.
know someone's going to crash through that. It's like a Die Hard moment.
Right?
Yeah.
And I totally didn't see it coming. Shows always surprise me like that. I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh, how nice. Look at that nice atrium. And then there
And
you go.
here we go.
Somebody goes
Master's
through it.
crashing through it, and he falls right onto, I mean, Buffy saw this, so that's why she tossed him over it.
Yeah.
He falls right onto, it looks like a broken bookshelf. I can't remember exactly what it is. I think it's a bookshelf that like fell over and like cracked.
It's like a piece of wood that's like cracked and broken like a steak,
yeah, so
right?
it's sticking right up like a steak.
So you know what I would call this?
What?
A steak lagtite.
God.
Huh?
Are you sure that's the
good.
bottom
That's
ones?
good.
No, I'm not sure.
Oh, there used to be like a device,
Yeah,
like
it's like,
stalagmites
might
and
get
stalactites
ya.
are tight
Yeah,
to
tight to the ceiling.
the tight to the ceiling.
Get back to
Get
you on
back
that.
to me.
On that dad joke.
So yeah, he falls on it and begins to disintegrate into tiny little black, I don't know, tiny balls of blackness that look a lot like, so in our movie club, we watched The Green Mile this week. I don't know if you've watched, well, it's, I don't know if
That's
you've watched
no,
it yet.
I haven't. I didn't watch it yet this week. I've seen it before though. So yeah, that's exactly what I thought
Yeah.
of when he disappears. He flies away like a bunch of flies.
Yeah, so when
Yeah.
John Coffey, have you seen The Green Mile, Kathleen?
Yeah, you know what? That's one that I saw really young as a kid in the
Yeah.
theater,
Yeah.
and I was very sad. Like I cried through the whole movie.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's a very upsetting movie. I cry through it as well, even now as an adult, because it's very upsetting. But yeah, like when John Coffey like heals something, there's like this like black, stuff that like comes out of his
Right.
mouth, and that's kind of what this reminded me of.
Yeah.
And then the tentacle demon falls back into the Hellmouth hole, and the vampires disappear. Buffy enters the library with Angel and Xander behind her. They assess the damage gathering around the master's skeleton. Giles informs them the Hellmouth is closed. Buffy is in a bit of a daze, and she just goes, "Oh, sorry, it's just been a really weird day." And Xander goes, "Yeah, Buffy died and everything." Willow says, "Wow, harsh." Giles says, "I should have known that wouldn't stop you." They agree they need to get out of the library. Xander suggests going to the dance. Buffy says, "Sure, we saved the world. I say we party. I mean, I got all pretty." Buffy calls the master a loser, and they all exit, talking over each other, and Angel compliments Buffy's dress. We look
Yeah.
at the master's skeleton one more time, and then
They
that's
just
it.
leave the mess for the janitors. They're
Yeah.
like, they'll get this.
They're like, you know what? We'll leave this for another day.
yeah, let's go party.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is season 1 finale, Prophecy Girl.
Do you have any trivia for this episode?
I do.
Let's hear it.
All right. This is Joss Whedon's first turn as a writer and director for Buffy. And this is his 10th favorite Buffy episode.
10th favorite.
Yes.
Interesting.
Out of 144
Did he rank them all?
was, I don't know.
That's got to be an arduous duty.
I'll have to go back and try to find the article.
Okay.
Allison Hannigan claims that there are 2 versions filmed of the scene where she and Cordelia discover the room full of bodies. A tamer version for American audiences and a bloodier one to be shown in Europe. So imagine that scene even bloodier.
Wow.
And then originally another sign of the impending apocalypse was going to be stones raining down on Sunnydale High, but it was cut out due to budget costs.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
They could have just done it digitally like they did a few other times.
Yeah, but then, you would have been like, what the hell is this? This looks terrible.
Unless they intentionally did it terribly, like Beetlejuice. Like
Yeah.
Beetlejuice had the foresight to know this is going to look bad, so let's really make it look
That's
bad.
a good point. That's very true.
Yeah. Let's pre-age it.
Yeah.
And just make it fine.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. The tentacle demon at the end was created from tentacle costumes. So each tentacle actually had a person in it manipulating it. The exchange at the end where where Angel tells Buffy that he likes her dress was actually added in production and not in the original script. So that was an ad-libbed part.
You know, that line did feel funny to me.
Really?
I was like, what is going on here? Like, I mean, I get that the dress could be a metaphor, but it just felt like a little too heavy-handed. I don't know, something about it kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Like Angel telling her that he liked it, or her saying it was a big hit with everyone?
Just so much attention being brought to it. Like, just being so explicit about it.
About
you
the
know, or
dress.
so obvious.
Yeah.
And then as they're walking away, it is interesting though, because as they're walking away out of the library, you also notice that Angel is in a tuxedo.
I didn't notice that.
Oh, is he?
No, it's like a full-on tuxedo with like a white collar.
Oh,
and
wow.
then she's in the dress. Hang on, I'm going to share my screen with you guys
ready to
so
go
that
to the
you can
dance.
see this.
Yeah.
Because it really does kind of
Oh, yeah.
feel wedding-ish.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's
Well, isn't that kind of like
interesting.
what he wears in the earlier episodes? Like that's sort of that's like his costume. That's his look.
Yeah, like I feel like
Perhaps.
it was a
bit
velvet,
dapper.
the velvet black jacket that he's worn before.
That's what it looks like. It has a little bit of a sheen
Yeah.
to it. But still,
It's still very-
regardless,
a little
you see them
fancy.
at the end walking away and they look like they're going to a wedding
Right.
in which they will
Theirs.
be marrying each other.
Yeah.
That's true.
That is a
Yeah.
good point. Oh,
Yeah. Interesting visual.
And so then I wondered if him saying, I like your dress was a way to like really point that out.
Yeah.
To be like, look, they look like they're about to get
Yeah.
married.
Yeah, maybe it's foreshadowing, like they're going to get married or something.
maybe you'll just have to put that in your predictions.
Well played. Both of you did really good there.
I legitimately don't remember.
That's like me too. Whenever she makes predictions for Lost, I'm like, yeah, I couldn't tell you one way or the other. I couldn't tell you.
And it's so funny because I was emailing with Sammy and I was like, hey, I was checking on an earlier episode to see if a thing happened that I remembered happening. And she's like, nope, not until season 3, episode whatever.
Yeah.
Season 2.
I was like, how do you remember? Did you just Google that or
Super
do you have
fan.
it filed away?
Super fan, no kids. Her brain's not melted yet.
Yeah, super fan, no kids. So I just kind of looked up like what the reception was of the season, and Rotten Tomatoes gave season 1 a score of 92%, which I feel like it would not have been given that today.
This seemed like a short season
It
for
was, yeah.
TV shows. Was that the norm in
No,
the 90s?
it was
Were
a
there lot of-
mid-season replacement.
What's that? What do you mean?
So it was there was basically a show that was ending mid-season. So Buffy
Like it was
replaced it. Yeah, it was
canceled.
like canceled. So Buffy replaced it
Interesting.
mid-season. Joss Whedon interviewed for Empire said of season 1, in season 1 we found that we had a show that people liked. I really thought people were going to laugh at the Buffy Angel thing and say, well, he's a vampire. This is so hokey. But they couldn't get enough of it. It definitely made me realize the soap opera aspect of it. A continuing story of the romance and the people and their emotions was really what was fascinating. The monsters were all very well and good, but in the first season we were like, let's take our favorite horror movies and turn them into high school stories. So that kind of gets at like a couple of things, like the idea of, you know, we don't see a whole lot of like the Buffy Angel dynamic in this first season. He's kind of
Yeah.
like, we see it, we see like a little bit of like flirting or whatever, and then there's like a whole lot obviously in Angel, and then he just kind of
Right.
disappears.
It was like one episode and like 2 or 3 cameos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think because, you know, obviously he's like, people are probably going to think this is weird. And then we realized like people were really into the idea of that.
It's also interesting that this was the first episode that he wrote and directed, and this is the episode. So coming back to the Vanity Fair article, to be a true Buffy fan, do you need to skip season 1? I am of the yes
Yeah.
persuasion. I think that you could start with season 2, go through the whole thing, and then come back to season 1
Okay.
and appreciate it a little bit more. I do think that in this last episode, it starts to find its voice and it starts to become the Buffy that I know and remember a little bit more. And I wonder if it does have something to do with his creative control and maybe what he learned through the first 12 episodes. And the first season of anything kind of sucks.
Yeah, because it's like the show is trying to find its footing. You're trying to get the characters to be realized as to who they are, what their motivations are, how they connect with each other, figuring out the chemistry. And then usually if it's a good show, season 2, season 3, that's usually the best seasons of the shows. For all my favorite shows, those are always the best seasons.
Yeah, that's how I feel about Buffy for sure.
I do hope that we get a good amount of silliness, though, because that is the thing that I love about Buffy a lot, is the amount of silliness and the quips and the stupid jokes here and there, and how some of the episodes are just so filled with that dialogue that's just ridiculous and dad jokey.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
I like that stuff.
that's what makes Buffy Buffy, though. So, like, that's not going to go
Yeah.
away, but you're going to have...
Except there's one season where that does go away,
Yeah,
and it's
that's true.
undoubtedly the worst season.
Yeah.
And it broke all of our hearts.
Oh,
so,
no.
but you've got a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is true. Do we have any more thoughts about season 1?
No, I was just going to ask you what your favorite episode was from season 1.
Mine is Angel. Hands
Oh,
down.
of course. That was an easy one.
Hands down. Although I
I
love
agree.
this episode for the adultness of it. If I'm like only watching one episode for season 1, it would be Angel.
I also like how this episode solidifies the crew.
Yeah.
And Cordelia's now in the fold, clearly.
Yeah, she's in
Like
it.
they're all walking out together.
Yeah. So she's definitely in on all the nonsense of the Hellmouth.
Yeah.
So she's going to become...
She's lived through some stuff with them now, so she's like got to
She
be
has
in.
been initiated.
Yeah, she's initiated. She is part of this Scooby Gang for
Whether
sure.
she wants to be or not.
Yeah, she's in. She's the anointed one.
Yeah.
Oh, but I can't wait for you to see later episodes. I almost named my son after a Buffy character.
Oh, wow.
I can't say what it is because it's a spoiler.
So what's your favorite episode, Kathleen? Was it also Angel? Were you agreeing with me? Or do you have another one?
Yeah, I agree with you.
What about you, Pat?
It's going to seem like an odd choice. It's the pork and beans episode.
What?
Yeah.
That is not what I was going to guess.
I don't know why. That one.
Never
for
kill
me,
a boy on the first date?
Yeah. Just, it was
You
ridiculous.
love Borba.
I love Borba. I love the pork and beans part. I love the chase through the cadaver drawer area, the morgue. And Owen was just this like ditzy football player. Oh no, he wasn't a football player. That's something I put upon his character. Yeah. So I don't know. There's something about that I hold fondly in my heart.
So, Pat, what are your
Yeah.
season 2 predictions?
I really should have wrote some down, huh?
Oh my God, Pat. Every episode. Every episode.
All right, season 2 predictions. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna do them on the fly. We'll do them live, okay?
All right.
Xander will continue to get friend zoned.
Yep.
I don't think he's gonna give up his pursuit of Buffy, although he should. Willow and Xander will not get together until the very end of the series, maybe.
Not so this is beyond season 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's farther down the road, okay?
Okay.
I feel like after this episode, they are trying to set up Miss Calendar and Giles to be a thing, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little worried about that because
In the past, you have
not
said
quite
you
sure.
don't like that. You don't want that.
I just
you
feel
said, I
like-
don't want it to happen because I won't like it or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it just doesn't feel like she's not good enough for him. Okay, not my Giles.
Oh. Why isn't she
Um,
good enough for him?
I don't know. I don't feel the chemistry.
You're
Not
very
yet, at
protective
least.
of her, of Giles.
I am. Yeah, nobody's good enough for Giles.
But you want him to be with somebody.
He's got to be with somebody.
Okay.
But he needs a friend. He definitely needs a friend.
Okay.
So Giles will not get a friend in season 2.
So then what's your prediction with Miss Calendar? Is that going to happen or no?
I feel like they're going to try to force a relationship somehow.
Okay.
I'm worried about that, but I don't want it to happen. But I think it might. I feel like it might.
Okay.
Can I toe the line on that? It might. It might happen. It might not. Is that a good prediction?
No, it's a terrible
Okay.
prediction.
All right, fine.
Kathleen, you be the judge. Is that a good prediction or a bad prediction?
I like it.
Thank you,
I
Kathleen.
like it.
We should
Good.
have
They
her on
might. They
here more
might
often.
not. What do you think's going to happen with Buffy in season 2?
Buffy is going to fawn over Angel, but there's still going to be this tension where they can't quite get together. So he's going to come in and out of her life as she continues to cycle through some possible boyfriends like Owen.
Who do you think the big bad is going to be? What's the
That's a
monster
great
in
question.
season
I was
2?
trying to think of that myself. I was like, okay, if the Master's gone, who's the big bad going to be?
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea because there's not even a hint to it. It could be Colin, could be Mini-Me because he saunters away. So maybe Colin does something. I don't know if he becomes the big bad. That would be kind of cool. But I think he
Big Little Bad.
Big Little Bad finds like a like another father figure of some sort, and he spawns him out of the blood well. And he's like, rise, father, something like that.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
That's it?
Okay.
That's all
That's
you
it.
got
That's all I
for
got.
predictions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What else are we all watching, reading, and listening to?
Okay, so funny enough, I'm reading a book called The Historian, which is about Dracula.
Oh, cool.
Whoa.
Is it any good?
It is a slog to get through. I read on my Kindle, so I always know how I'm going in a book, like through percentages. I'm about 80% through, and it was like a 20-hour long read. And I'm 80% through, and I'm at the point now where I'm just kind of tapping through pages, just trying to like skim and wait for the parts that I want to read. It's very like historical fiction-y without a lot of the drama that I need to stay hooked in. And then other than that, I'm watching The Crown right now.
Crown Mania. Everybody's watching The Crown.
What it was is the chess show, Queen's Gambit.
Yeah, I just finished that.
Okay, so I watched that. It was phenomenal.
So
and
good.
so then I feel like after that, I just wanted more like beautiful cinematography. So I thought The Crown was a good next step.
That's what everybody's trying to get me hooked in with. They're like, you have to watch The Crown. The cinematography will blow your mind. And I'm big on cinematography. I'm like, okay, I should get into that. But the whole royal thing, it's not grabbing my attention.
Yeah, I don't know if that would be.
But
enough
neither
for
did
you.
chess, and Queen's Gambit was awesome.
Yeah.
So
Oh, it was so good.
I still haven't seen that, but I am
Gotta see
also
it.
watching The Crown.
Oh, well then I'm trying not to tell people who haven't seen The Queen's Gambit how good it is, because I hate hyping something up.
yeah.
And then you watch it and you're like, I guess.
Yeah. Because I guess if you go into it thinking like what I thought, where I was like, it's a show about chess, how good can it be?
Mm-hmm.
And then when you watch it, you're like, oh, okay, that's why. It's just, you just got to see it.
Yeah.
And even the first episode of Queen's Gambit, I was kind of like, I can't.
Yeah, the first episode doesn't
There's so
grab
many
you.
shows I've given up on this
Yeah.
year after one episode. If I can't get hooked in, I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm actually just rewatching a lot of stuff. That whole idea of like rewatching things you've already seen being comforting, like that's the place I'm in now.
What are you rewatching?
Well, I am trying to watch The Crown. I just love so much more the like Elizabethan era and the Tudors that I'm just not as into like the more modern Crown stuff. So that's been harder for me to like really get into. And I had watched it through like halfway through season 2 and then tried like picking up where I left off recently. And I was just like, I don't know who anybody is anymore. I got to start this all over again. So I've made it maybe like halfway through season 1 at this point. And just like, I don't know. It's just too serious for me sometimes. Like sometimes I just need something.
I will say I don't know what's going on half the time.
Yeah, you
And
really
I have to watch it
pay
with
attention.
subtitles.
And not because there's like jump scares or anything like that, but it's just like there's so much information and there's so many people. It's like a little like Game of Thrones, but not as fun.
It is like a Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Speaking of Game of Thrones, so I keep waiting for someone to get like murdered.
Yeah, I know.
Or whenever I first started watching The Crown, I was like, what's going to happen? Forgetting that it's not.
Yeah. Well, that's why I like
mean,
the
it's-
Tudors so much more, because it's like he's got to get through 6 wives. And everybody's getting thrown in the tower and everything. Yeah, I guess that's more my speed. I don't know what that says about me as a person, but
You're dark.
I'm really
Your grandma
dark.
did it to you.
yeah, it's my grandma's fault. Damn
Yeah.
it, grandma. So I've also been watching Gilmore Girls, just like rewatching it. I don't know why. Just like threw on an episode and I was like, oh, this is so comforting.
I just read Who Fears Death, which is kind of like an African futurism book and very fantasy. And so that's kind of gotten me into a place where I think I can read fantasy. But I'm also kind of digging some like World War II spy stuff. I used to never be into historical fiction.
Yeah.
But this year, I love reading stuff about plagues now.
That's so random.
I love a good plague book.
I don't have any suggestions on plague books for you. That's pretty much it. What about you, Pat?
I watched Tenet, the new Christopher Nolan movie,
Oh,
And
Because you haven't watched enough Christopher Nolan movies this year.
I know. We've watched them all
Movie club.
because of our movie club. But yeah, no, I really wanted to see it because it's like one of the only movies that came out in the theater this year, but I didn't venture out into the Corona to go see it. So I was really excited when it came out on Blu-ray, but I had heard a lot of mixed reactions to the movie. Some people really loved it, and some people were just super confused by it and said that the dialogue was horrible. So I was like, oh, this is divisive. This is interesting. So I went to rent it digitally, and you can't rent it digitally until January, which I was really bummed about. So I had to venture out to the Redbox and get the old Blu-ray, old trusty Blu-ray coming in for the win. So we watched that over the weekend, and it's something to see. I can't say if I like it or I don't like it. I think I like it, but it's so confusing because it's Nolan with his weird narrative structures, and it's an experience. I think you should see it. Before we get into our outro, let's just thank our guest, Kathleen, for being on this podcast. We're super happy to have you here.
Yes.
You added so much to this episode, so thanks for taking
Well,
all the
thanks for
time.
having me. I will talk Buffy any day.
Awesome.
Don't say that. I will take you up
Yeah,
on
because
that.
she will cash in whenever she can.
Where can people find you, Kathleen?
I am on Instagram @andkathleen, and then braidcreative.com.
Awesome. Thanks so
And
much.
if they sign up for Braid Creative emails, they'll get messages from you sometimes.
You just get what you get. And then also I'm on the Being Boss podcast and all the archives.
including episode
check that
with
out,
me,
too.
episode 117.
Yeah, which was so fun. I love talking to you about Flora Apothecary.
Listen and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. Don't forget to rate us 5 stars. Leave us a review if you have the time.
And you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter @KickstreamPod, and send emails, but please no spoilers, to kickstreampod@gmail.com. And you can also check out show notes for this and every episode at kickingstreaming.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Kathleen. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
you.
And remember, streaming is always better.
With friends.
Friends.